everybody. Welcome to the second Ask Me Anything. We did one of these last month. It was great. I'm excited to be doing this one. I got many very good questions in advance, which I want to do. But I also want to take questions that come in from the comments while we're doing this. I think my favorite thing about the Ask Me Anything we did last month was just the bizarre culture that emerged from the chat people. Like not just the questions that came in, but like people in the comments talking to each other. That was very good. That I was really happy with what happened there. So I want to encourage that. And part of me encouraging that is going to be, even though I have many questions that were submitted in advance, I still want to do questions that come in. So feel free to ask me anything. We got a question last time that was like, can I ask questions about non-guitar related issues? And the answer is yes. You can ask me anything. That you can ask me anything you want. Okay. I'm going to start with some questions I got in the run up though. While you guys are still figuring out your shit at home, I'm going to start doing questions that were submitted in advance. All right. The first question is from Instagram. This is from Mordecai Martin. The question is Muhammad Ali versus a literal butterfly and bee working in concert. Who wins? Great question. So, first of all, I just have to say that I'm just really interested in the butterfly and the bee as people. Just those two. I like them. I have a lot of questions for them and how them working together. Who are they? How did we get here? I like them. Part of me even thinks maybe I'm rooting for them. Maybe I'm rooting for the butterfly and the bee, except that also I feel like everybody who ever rooted against Muhammad Ali was on the wrong side of history. So I kind of don't want to say I'm rooting against Muhammad Ali. Also, when I really imagine that watching this fight, and I imagine like if Muhammad Ali loses, like when I imagine watching Muhammad Ali get dropped by a fucking bug, like I don't feel good when that happens. I wouldn't be happy if I saw Muhammad Ali lose to an insect. That's one of those things where like you watch the whole fight thinking you're rooting for one person, and then when they win, you're like, wait a minute, I was rooting for the other guy this whole time. And then also, who do I think would win? That's the question, I think. Who do I think would win? I think Muhammad Ali would win. I don't think the bugs would kill Muhammad Ali. I think he would win. There's a couple ways to look at this. They did a comic book in the 70s where Muhammad Ali fought Superman and Superman lost. So I feel like if Muhammad Ali beats Superman, he could beat the butterfly and the bee. I know the butterfly and the bee working together is a big deal. And like maybe this is like a very extraordinary bug, two bugs. I realize these might be like exceptional bugs, but even so, I feel like Muhammad Ali wins. And also, forget the comic book. A lot of people who are a lot less tough than Muhammad Ali are able to kill bugs every day. So I just feel like Muhammad Ali gets in the ring and he kills the bugs. So that's my answer, Muhammad Ali. Please do the cringe sitting on a park bench again. A callback to last month's Ask Me Anything when I did an impression of Jethro Tull. I don't think I can do it again. I don't think that was the best impression I'll ever do of Jethro Tull, and I can't do it again. I'm sorry. I could try to do other new impressions, but I can't go back. All right. Okay. Other questions. What are we looking at here? All right. Here's a good one. This question is from Spaghetto. I hope I'm saying that right. Spaghetto's question was, what's your approach to critiquing your music? How can you tell if you made something bad versus niche? Well, so right out of the gate, I don't really worry about niche. I don't worry about niche. I only worry about bad. I feel like niche is probably not going to be a problem for you, unless you're like a highly successful mega producer who has to like deliver like an extremely successful pop hit to a record label. unless you're that, I don't think being too niche is going to hurt you. In fact, if you're at the stage of life where you're taking advice from like a random asshole on YouTube, I think actually being niche would probably be good for you. Like every niche that exists would actually make you successful if you can really conquer that niche. You know what I mean? Like, what's an example of a niche band? Melt Banana. You guys know them? Melt Banana is like this fucking cool noise band from Japan that I love. Extremely niche. Like sometimes when I hang out with my friends and we're like taking turns putting on music, I'll put on Melt Banana and my friends are like, it's someone else's turn. Ivan just lost his turn. It's like hostile. Melt Banana is like hostile music. So like that's an example of a band that's extremely niche. And guess what? Like they're doing great. Like all their numbers are high. They've been in the game for like 15 years. They're like a successful band. So the point I'm trying to make here is that like even a niche where it's like my own friends don't like it, that niche there is like still a gold mine if you can really be the king of that niche. Whereas like if you're just trying to like what else is there? If you're not being niche, what are you trying to do? You're just gonna be some guy. You're just trying to be like the Neon Trees or something. I mean, obviously those guys are making money, but that's a big pool you're trying to swim in all of a sudden now. Trying to beat Neon Trees at the non-niche approach to popular music or indie rock or whatever they are. So my point really here is like if you think you just did something very niche, that's probably there's like a lane to being successful with that. You just have to sort of find the niche and then get the people in the niche to listen to the thing you made and they'll probably dig it. So that's why I don't worry about niche, or if anything, I worry that this is not niche enough. Because what's the opposite of niche? It's just sort of like vague, right? Don't be vague. Like nobody wants to listen to vague music. I know it seems like the most successful music in the world can be very vague. Like I think like Kings of Leon is like a vague band, and they're they sold a lot of records, but let's not worry about that. Let's just don't get hung up on that. If like I said before, if you're still taking advice from like a YouTube asshole, I think the career plan for you is probably not to try to be equal to Kings of Leon a year from now. The niche is like a sort of a good thing to try to do. Anyway, so I don't worry about that. I only worry about if I made something bad. That's the only thing I worry about. And if it's something I want to listen to, if I want to hear it, then I think it's good. Like I try to think like I want to make a music. I want to make a song that is like a song I want to hear, but I can't hear it because it hasn't been released because nobody made it. If you come at it that way, then it's good. It's not bad. So that's my answer to that question. How do you balance writing and recording music that you want to play live with a band? Should the recording just stand on its own, even if it's hard to pull off live? That's a classic question. Well, I try to make the recording the coolest thing it can possibly be. So if it's going to be hard to pull off live, I just have to work a little bit harder. I sort of don't really worry about not being able to do it live. I just make the recording the coolest possible thing. Because if so many people think about actually what it would take for that to backfire. Like let's say you make a record that's really fancy and cool, but it's hard to play live. The thing you're afraid of here is that people will come to your shows and then say, oh, he can't play the record. A lot of people would have to come to your show for anyone to say that, right? Like if you're really an indie rock band and the people at your shows are like your friends and your other band friends, like they're not going to say, oh, wow, you couldn't play your own record. They're going to be like, good job, dude. You know what I mean? You have to sell out the Bowery Ballroom, which is still a far cry from being famous, but like you have to like get 600 people to a club show before anyone thinks like, ooh, he actually can't play his own record. So, and by the time you get there, like things are going okay for you, So, and also even if it's hard to play the record live, just figure out a way to do it. I mean, I don't I don't use tracks. I'm against that. That could be another thing we talk about later. I don't like backing tracks, and you're never gonna have backing tracks at a cyber attack show. But I also like stuff if it's different from the record, if it's spontaneous and cool. Like I like it when there's like improvisation and a certain amount of discovery on stage, and stuff that you can only do live is happening live with the band. I'm into that, and I'll trade that for not having it be exactly like the record. And as an audience member, I'm willing to trade that. So then, as a performer, that's also what I'm doing. So that's my answer to that. Good question though. All right, let's do another one from the backlog. Okay. Here, there was a hard one I got from. Oh, I don't. This was an Instagram question. I'm sorry if I say this person's name wrong. The question is from Henning Stakis. That's the person who asked. And the question is, only one instrument for the rest of your life. What is it? If guitar, what's second? So it's got to be guitar. I mean, that's my best instrument. Like I can't. I'm only actually good at guitar, and if it seems like I'm playing other shit on my songs, or I'm playing like synthesizer, or I'm making a drum track or something, I'm sort of like using the fact that I'm good at guitar to like fake the other things. I'm not actually good at playing keyboard, but I can use the fact that like I know what it's like to be good at a different instrument to like sort of fake keyboard. So I have to keep guitar. I can't lose that. I'm out of the game if I lose that. So then what's second? Well, I feel like the thing I still really care about the most is making original music. And my original music has like lyrics in it. And so I gotta say voice. I tried for a while to maybe the early days of Cyber Attack. I was trying to do this like instrumental music thing. It was like sort of jazz fusion, I guess, kind of. And some people saw those shows and were like, that's pretty cool, you should do that. But I realized like if you do that, you're up against like Pat Metheny, you're up against Jeff Beck, if you want to be like an instrumental guitar player. And I was just like, I'm not going to beat those guys. Whereas like if I can be a good guitar player who's like lyrics are also kind of good, like I can write better lyrics than Steve Vai. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be an arrogant prick here, but I think it's okay for me to say that. Like I think I could write a better lyrics than Steve Vai. I think I can. If you disagree, you want to listen to my album and you want to tell me that I'm full of shit, go ahead. And it's not because Steve Vai doesn't write lyrics. I don't know if you know this, but he has songs on his albums that like have lyrics and stuff. I don't think it's unbeatable. So I decided like that's part of my deal. I know you guys are all here because of my fucking pedal videos, but in my mind, like I'm still really kind of like a songwriter to the bone. So I have to pick voice because I don't want to have to work with singers anymore. I tried that. The lyrics I'm writing now are sort of personal anyway. So it's voice, even though singing is impossible and hard. I feel like if I can't fuck around on synthesizers anymore, if I really my other question though for this, my question about the question is like, what happens if I break the rules of the question? You know what I mean? Like if we say, okay, I'm only allowed to play one instrument for the rest of my life, what happens if I like say I'm only going to play guitar and then I touch a synthesizer? Like how bad is it? You know what I mean? Like, do I just shit my pants every time that happens? Or is it like worse than that? I sort of want to know, because like maybe for like one day a year I just track all the synthesizers and it's like every time I touch it I shit my pants and it's like a terrible day, but I can track the synthesizer that way. Or is it worse? Is it like I die? I feel like that's a sort of we don't know what the answer to that is. Anyway, I feel like that's we got to a good I feel like that's as far as I can go with that question. Can I take your picture the next time you were in Los Angeles? I guess if you like see me in Los Angeles, then sure, you could take my picture. If you want me to like come over to your house, no. Uh, how do you get ideas for the presets on the how to be advanced series? It's hard. It's hard. I get the pedal. Sometimes if I know I'm getting the pedal, I'll like look up the instruction manual before I get it, and I'll just look at the instructions and try to find edge cases, or like try to find like possible areas where it like you might break something, or you might sort of force it to have to make a decision about what it's trying to do. I try, sometimes I'll just try to look for vulnerabilities, I'll put it that way. I try to look for like the things it seems like the pedal may or may not be able to do, and then I see what's on the other side of the boundary. Sometimes I can get ideas for that from looking at the manual. I'll give you an example. I did a video recently about the GFI synesthesia. Jeff, my friend, who's also the keyboardist of Cyber Attack, told me after I put that video out that I said the word wrong the whole time. That I don't synesthesia, is that synesthesia? How do you say it? In the video I was saying synesthesia, and the keyboardist was like, no, that's not how you say that. So now I'm self-conscious about that. But the point is that that pedal is, you can use any two effects at the same time, and it has many different effects, and you can use two. And some of the effects it has are pitch shifters, and it can do some limited octave stuff. So just from looking at the manual, I was trying to think of ways you could glitch it out with the two effect slots. And I was like, oh, you know what might be crazy? Is if you use the first effect slot to go an octave up, and you make the mix 100% wet, so you only hear the pitch shift and you're going up one octave, and then you make the second effect one octave down 100% wet. So you go up an octave and then go down an octave, and then you come out back where you started, which defeats the purpose, but maybe it'll sound different. Like maybe that pedal, if you pitch shift up and then back down and you negate the pitch shifting, maybe it'll pick up some sort of weird dust from just going through the pedal, and it'll sound fake and cool. That was like an idea I had before I played the pedal. So then when I got it, I tried that, and it didn't sound very cool. You either couldn't hear a difference, or it was just a little delayed and it was sort of useless. So I was sad about that. But then I was like, well, what if we go an octave up and then we go an octave up again? So you're just two octaves up. And that's, if you do that, then it sort of does what I hoped it would do the first time. It introduces a lot of sort of unintentional weirdness to the signal. It doesn't just sound like your note two octaves up. You can hear that the pedal is sort of trying to like slice a section of your note to sample and pitch shift, and it has to resample it every second, and you can hear the beating of that, and it's weird. So that's one of the pro tips in that video. So that's sort of what I'm trying to do. I just am looking for sort of like things the pedal can't do, or it's things the manual sort of, I'm looking for whatever the pedal sort of establishes as its boundaries, and then I'm trying to find ways to go outside the boundaries, or like turn the pedal against itself. Like if I can make the pedal kill itself, that'll be one of the pro tips. Here's a question. I get the sense that if you want to make a piece of art, you'll just go for it. But if not music or email comedy, I bet a lot of you guys don't know that I also have an email comedy thing. What's a medium you want to work in? Are there any non-music / comedy projects you want to do? Yeah, I do. I have a thing that I want to do on my YouTube channel that I'm saving. I have a sort of a huge, big project that is going to be amazing. And there's like some hints. If you watch a lot of stuff on my channel, there's like hints about what it might be. But I have a full-length feature idea for like a full-length feature that I want to upload directly to YouTube that I'm saving until after the channel is sort of bigger. It's got nothing to do with pedals. It's got nothing to do with pedals. And if I can make it happen, it's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done, making this thing. But yes, there are other things I want to do. Okay. What are your favorite genres and bands? This is so hard to do. I like a lot of stuff. And I feel like I always end up talking about the same things when people ask me this. Like Jimi Hendrix, Van Halen, Prince. Those are like the three I always end up talking about. But I'm gonna try to like talk about other bands that I don't like besides them now, because I got the question again. I love the band Cheap Trick. You know them? They did I Want You to Want Me and other songs. I love them. They really, really nailed the sort of like the feeling of like teenage longing and like being so horny as a teenager that it's like more than horny. It's like just having sex wouldn't even be enough at that point to satisfy like the depth of your craving. That feeling, which I remember vividly as a teenager, um, uh, Cheap Trick, I feel like just emotionally owns that feeling. They just nailed it. Also, musically, they are extremely cool at using tension. Like the main songwriter, the guitar player Rick Nielsen, he's so good at sticking in augmented chords and diminished chords and then resolving them in like a really power pop way. It doesn't sound like fucking Frank Zappa when they go to the cool chord. It doesn't sound like that. It sounds like beautiful tension. It's like the tension of being a teenager and it's like your pants are too tight and you're like, oh, it's happening again. It's like the Cheap Trick found the chord changes that is like that. So I love them. Also, their lead singer Robin Zander was one of my favorite singers of all time. That guy has an insane voice. The high end of his voice is crazy. The power he has is crazy. He he can be forceful. He can also be kind of melodic. Their singer is great, and also their drummer can really shred. Bunny Carlos, he's not the drummer anymore. Now it's some guy's kid as the drummer. I think guitar player's kid is the drummer, but the original drummer Bunny Carlos was an awesome drummer. The thing I love about him is that like his fills and everything were like very phrasy. They were like melodic fills, even though he's a drummer, and so there's like no pitch. His fills were like had melodies. And what I mean is like if they have a live album and one of the songs is called "Ain't That a Shame" and it starts with a drum solo, and you can like sing the drum solo because it's like everything he plays in the drum solo is like they're like each one is a little sentence, and they're so vocal that way, and like each little phrase is like so perfect as a phrase that it's like an easy drum solo to memorize in your head and like an easy drum solo to like play eardrums to. I don't mean easy because it's basic. I mean easy because it's like catchy. So I love Cheap Trick. Look at this. I didn't know this. Hayes Anderson must be a drummer. Bunny Carlos played an entire tour one year left-handed, then the next year switched to right hand. Yeah, I could believe that. He's an underrated guy. I mean, Cheap Trick was like a power pop band, and their guitar player was like cool, but not a shredder. And so I think a lot of people sort of assumed, I think a lot of people assumed that as players, they were sort of like medium good 70s guys. You know what I mean? I feel like Cheap Trick sort of went down in history as being like equal to Kiss in terms of being like pretty good 70s guys, as opposed to like, 80s shredders, or as opposed to like 70s, virtuosos like the horn players in Earth, Wind and Fire or something. But they deserve a better reputation than that. I think the drummer really is hardcore shredder, and the singer is like as good as anybody in the hardcore sense. And the bass player was great. He served the band. And Rick Nielsen is a guitar player. He's got cool solos, but the songwriting is next level. What is your current pedalboard setup for live gigs? It's astounding to me that I've reached the level in life where strangers want to ask me that. I'm sorry. It's like I can't. It's astounding to me that like anyone is interested in the answer to this question. My pedalboard's fucked up because I stopped playing gigs in COVID. In Plague World, I stopped playing gigs, and then I had to take my pedals off my board to start making YouTube videos about it, and I haven't put my board back together. And I'm like not in a rush to play shows again. I'm playing it safe still. Being that you're from New Jersey, good. Love that you know that about me. Jason Wysocki, whom I don't know anything about. Have you experienced the hardcore punk scene? Hate 5-6 is a local legend. Are you familiar? I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm sure they're great. I went to college out of state and then moved to New York City pretty quickly. So I kind of never really, I have very little knowledge of the New Jersey, any local music scene, not just punk. I don't really know anything about local music in New Jersey. I'm sorry. So I don't know about them. I've been to Dingbats a couple times, but you know, if you say they're good, I'm sure they're good. What would be your top 5 favorite key changes? Ugh. Excruciating question. Yeah, well, all right. I have a question for you. First of all, are we talking about like, what's a key change? Like if you're just playing some dipshit song in G major and then you go to like an E flat major 7 chord, is that a key change? I mean, I think it's not, but what are you going to do over that chord? You're going to keep playing G major, or are you going to make an adjustment? You see what I'm saying? So that's a question. But for the purposes of answering it, how about this? Let's just say the sorts of key changes we're talking about are like really obvious pop song ones, like the sort of like brute force, like we're going up a half step, fuck you, like that style key change, which I love. So my favorite of all time is easy. That would be "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston. Who's gonna beat that? Nobody. Nobody's gonna beat that. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Where the song ends, song's over, and then there's a fucking huge thud, and then she starts singing a half step up. That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. You got a heart of ice if you hear that and are not affected by it. What a beautiful song. So that's number one. Oh, Michael Jackson has a key change on "Man in the Mirror." There's a key change on the word "change." I always kind of like that. I mean, I guess it's sort of corny and obvious. If other people did that, I would hate it. If Billy Joel wrote a song where he did a key change on the word "change," I'd be like, why are you always being such a cliche idiot? But when MJ did it, I was like, thank you for that. So that comes to mind. Oh, this is an obscure one, but there's a Thin Lizzy song called "Get Out of Here." And after the guitar solo, this is like an album track on Black Road. No one knows the song. If we got any Thin Lizzy fans watching right now, this is your moment. There's an album track on a Thin Lizzy record called "Get Out of Here," and after the guitar solo, there's a key change, and it's just something about it like hits the sweet spot in the singer's voice and Phil Lynot's voice. And for the rest of the song, everything he's saying, it's like he's like got the invincibility thing in the video game. It's like at that moment he gets the invincibility power up, and for the rest of the song, he's just got like stars coming off him, and he's like now he's singing in his real range. I love that. And how many did you want from me? 5. Oh God, I got 2 more I got to think of. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna halt to ask me anything until I can think of 2 more. I'm not, I don't fuck around with these questions. Look at this. Look at this. I know that Thin Lizzy's tuned because of you, man. You guys are gonna make me cry. This is so beautiful, the stuff you're telling me. Asking me questions about my pedal board, telling me you know the Thin Lizzy song because of me. If you can touch one life, ladies and gentlemen, if you could touch one life. Okay. Oh, and I've seen the other questions come in and I want to do them. I want to do the other questions, but I have to escape my little key change prison first. Okay, I got 2 more I got to think of. At this point, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm just the next 2 key changes I can think of, I'm going to say are my 4th and 5th favorites of all time. If I can just think of one. Layla. Okay, right? Isn't there a half step change from the chorus to the verse of Layla? Right? What do you do when you get lonely? Isn't that like a half step away from whatever the chorus was? When I woke up this morning, I really didn't think I was going to be giving Eric Clapton a special moment in my live stream, but that's what I got, Layla. So that's number 4. And then, oh, look at this, a true friend. Gonna help you out of it. What about the "To Be With You" by Mr. Big? Of course. I like that song because of you, man. This is a friend of mine from my hometown. We've been in a bunch of bands together, me and this guy. We know each other in real life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that's like destabilizing for those of you who don't know me in real life, and those of you who are asking if you can take pictures of me in Los Angeles. If it's like upsetting for you to hear that some of the other people on this live stream are actually close personal friends of mine, I'm sorry. But this guy is, yeah, of course. "To Be With You" by Mr. Big. It was a great key change at the end of that song. And then doesn't it go back to the original key also? Yeah, great one. That's a great key change. Cool. Whew. Okay, I'm so glad we're out of out of that question. That was hard. Have you got any formal music education? Did you attend music school or just learn stuff by yourself? I do have formal music education in the form of private guitar lessons. I was obsessed with taking private guitar lessons as a teenager. I was like fixated on going to my teacher and learning as much as I could. So, you know, I learned like music theory. I know that stuff. I know, you know, I know like how to talk about key signatures and chord substitutions and the modes and melodic minor and like altered scales and syncope. I know how that stuff works. And when I was in college, I did take some recording engineering classes, like, you know, where you got to set microphones and you learn how to record stuff and the science of music. I learned that stuff too. But I wasn't a music major. So my sight reading is not good. Like I know how to read music, but if you ask me to read music, I'm like, every good boy B. It's the B. You know what I mean? That's how I read music. And then, you know, the nice thing, if you have a good teacher, you have someone explain this stuff to you, you know, is that you can then start to sort of teach yourself stuff too, right? Like my guitar teacher was a rock guy, but he taught me enough for me to try to figure out other songs. Like I would try to figure out a Pat Metheny guitar solo or figure out the chords and work with that stuff. And you can, if you have enough of the building blocks, you can start to educate yourself pretty effectively. Now you can educate yourself with no instructor too, you know, and people do that. There are people who are self-taught, but you sort of have to, you know, the bigger your gift, the farther you'll go without any help. So you got to ask yourself how gifted you are and how far you think you can get with no help. I needed help. I got no problem admitting that. What advice and when advice do you wish someone gave you about music starting out after first gig? Oh, I can tell you this. I remember this. So right, I just told you that when I was a teenager, I was like obsessed with playing guitar. I was like the kid who's obsessed with taking guitar lessons. I mean, at least that's what I thought I was. People in my high school probably thought I was the kid who was like obsessed with getting good grades or something. But in my mind, I was like running with the devil, learning Van Halen songs, going to my guitar teacher. So I was obsessed with that. And I remember one time my parents were friends with this guy who was a photographer in New York City. I grew up close to New York City. And he had photographed a bunch of famous musicians, Bruce Springsteen, Madonna, like, you know, as famous as there was in the 80s. His name is Peter Cunningham. He was like my parents' cool friend who had lived it. And I remember talking to him at something for like some event my parents took me to where he was, and telling him I was really into rock and roll and asking him all these questions about bands he'd seen or photographed. And he said, "Are you also singing?" And I said, "No, man, I'm really focusing on guitar. I don't want to sing. I want to be the guitar player with mystique. You know, I want to be, there's like Axl and then I'm Slash. There's David Lee Roth. I'm going to be Eddie Van Halen. That's the role. I figured it out already. I'm not singing." And he took out his hand and smacked me like the way Butthead smacks Beavis. Just got smacked. He was like, you should be singing. You should be singing." And I didn't take his advice. I was like, well, disagree, which I now regret. I ended up singing a lot later. I'm the singer on the Cyber Attack album. If you listen to Cyber Attack songs, if you don't just watch the fucking pedal videos, if you ever actually listen to the album, I'm singing those songs. I had to take singing lessons. It was really hard. I had to learn it later in life. I developed all these shitty bad habits. It was extremely difficult. I wish I'd started sooner, because I did some cool stuff as the guitar player who's not a singer. You know, I was in some bands that had lead singers who were cool, and it was fun to be the role where like they're the lead singer and you're the guy playing guitar behind him, and then you have the solo, and then you go back to being the guy. You know, that was cool, but I was sort of taking the easy way out the whole time. I was afraid of what you have to confront if you're really going to be the lead singer. And so I wish I hadn't been a wuss. I wish when that guy had smacked me, I'd listened to him. I wish I'd started singing sooner. All right. What other questions did we get here? Oh man, there's so many good ones here. What's your favorite pedal that you've done a deeper dive on? Well, I'm gonna assume deeper dive means made a video about. I don't think there's any pedal in the world that I've gone a deeper dive on than the ones I made videos about. Of those, what's my favorite? I don't know, man. I really don't know. When I made the video about the Boss PS6 Harmonist, that was kind of my favorite pedal but that was the early days of this channel, and people have sent me 100 pedals since then. But at that time, I thought the Boss PS6 Harmonist was sort of like, I don't think people realize how powerful it was. I don't think people realize that if you want to use it to do normal shit, it sounds great. And then there's a huge potential for it to be abused. And for what it costs, and how big it is, I sort of felt like that pedal kind of was like a true jackpot. Since then, I don't know. How about this? I'm a little bit sad that I made a video about the Game Changer Plasma. It's a distortion pedal that literally like creates lightning in a little tube, and that like video just does not get views. I guess nobody really gives a shit about searching for that pedal on YouTube, or they do, and the algorithm's killing me. But for the purposes of getting people to watch that video, I'm gonna say that's my favorite one. How long should one practice guitar every day? A lot. Try to take it seriously. If there's like other kids in your middle school who are practicing more than you, try to beat them. If you're not in middle school, I don't know, man. Hurl yourself at it. If your attitude here is like, well, I feel like stopping, but I said I was going to practice for 60 minutes, so I have to keep playing for 10 more minutes. Cool that you're being disciplined. That's good that you're powering through. But everyone who got really good sort of lost track of the time because they were just playing constantly. I mean, you don't misunderstand what I'm saying. If you want to get extremely good, then you're going to have to go through the phase where you force yourself to practice things you don't feel like practicing. There's no way around that. But there's more to it than that too. You also sort of have to rack up time you're not even aware that you're racking up because you just have the guitar on you all the time. You know what I mean? So try to find shit that's fun that you're not going to be doing with a stopwatch. That's how I would say you should approach it. Okay, look at this. Got any music recs that might elicit? I can't believe Ivan is into that from the crowd. Well, I'm a little suspicious of questions like this because I think that everything I like is worth liking and everything makes sense. So if I like something that's surprising to you, then that's your fucking problem. You know what I mean? Like if it's surprising you that my favorite key change of all time is a Whitney Houston song, why would that be surprising? It's a fucking great song. You think I'm deaf? You surprised that I'm not deaf, or did you not know it was a good song? Well, what's your problem that you didn't know? How long did you keep a pedal around before you decide it's not aiding in creativity and selling it, or do you really try to exhaust the pedal's options, or is it a gut hope, nope, don't like it thing sometimes? Well, that's a cool question. I don't want to give like an annoying answer, but I'm in a new phase of life with this shit because people send me the pedals. And if it's like they pay me too, and we go back and forth over email before I get it. So if we say, okay, yes, send me the pedal, yes, pay me for it, then I just force myself to make the video and find 5 pro tips. I don't want to make it sound like I'm making videos about pedals I don't like, but I don't really have to decide whether to buy pedals anymore. That's my point. I used to go to the guitar store and you like ask to get the room and they give you the pedal and you spend some time playing it. I don't have to do that anymore because I've got a bunch of pedals back from when I was doing that, and now they just give them to me. So back when I was doing that, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a gut thing. I mean, I like to be able to make a pedal do something. Unless it's like a distortion pedal, in which case I just want it to sound awesome. Like if I'm testing out a distortion pedal at the guitar store, I want to turn it on and play a power chord and be like, oh, fuck, yes. I want that reaction from a distortion pedal. If it's not that, then that must not be the pedal for me. For anything that's like more creative than a distortion, I want to be able to make it do something. I don't want to feel like this pedal is just doing what it does to my sound. You know, I'll give you an example. Electro Harmonics, which is a great brand and it has a million cool fucking pedals. So I'm not talking shit here. Chill out. Electro Harmonics makes those pedals where it's like many different classic keyboard sounds or like many different organ sounds. The Mel 9, you know what I'm talking about? Like you could play a bunch of different types of B3 organs, and you know they give you those presets or whatever. I played one of those in the store, and I felt like I couldn't make it do anything. It's sort of, they figured out how to recreate the sound of that organ, and you can't really get away from it, and you can't really sort of carve out your own new thing. You're just playing that organ now. And it's, you know, if you need to be able to do that because of you're in a wedding band or something and they can't hire an organ player, then that's a cool pedal. But that's not me. I'm not in a wedding band. And I want to be able to feel like I can make the pedal do stuff beyond what it was marketed to be able to do. And if I feel like a pedal can't do that, then I'm not really interested in it. What's your favorite YouTuber that doesn't do guitar music stuff? Well, I don't really watch YouTubers. I barely watch the guitar YouTubers. And outside of guitar, I don't watch any. Oh no, there's one. Sorry, SNES Drunk. He just put out a video today. The channel is just him talking about 90s video games, for like Super Nintendo era video games. It's just like 5-minute videos about, is such and such a video game worth playing? That guy. He's a YouTuber that I like. Other than that, there's like 2 things I do on YouTube. Watch clips of The Sopranos dysfunctionally and obsessively. I've watched every episode of The Sopranos at least 4 times by like watching the episode. But I've watched every episode of The Sopranos like 9 times just from watching random clips on YouTube, which is like such a junky way to consume anything. I love doing that. And then there's another thing on YouTube that I'm fucking obsessed with, which is footage of like guys, like famous men losing their shit on camera. So good. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like the Bill O'Reilly one is really famous, where Bill O'Reilly, it's like back when Bill O'Reilly was on Inside Edition and he like doesn't understand what the teleprompter says. And he's like trying to do the line. He's like, first of all, he does like weird breathing. He does like rage breathing. That's crazy. I've studied this video. He does like a snort. There's no words on it. I can't, fucking thing sucks. That video. We'll do it live. I love that video, but there's like a bunch of those. Tom Cruise had one on the set of whatever movie he was doing. He lost his shit in that one on YouTube. I love that. But my favorite one is the bowling guy. What's that guy's name? What's the name of the best bowler in the world? Somebody has to know what I'm talking about. There's footage of some like bowling World Series, and the guy who's about to win it is getting heckled. And then he bowls a strike and wins. And then he like turns to face the people who are heckling him and loses his fucking mind and starts screaming at the people who are heckling him. And he says crazy shit. He says, "Who do you think you are? I am." Guys, that's advanced. You understand how advanced that is? Who, in a rage, in like an incoherent rage, he says, "Who do you think you are? I am." I love shit like that on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, you do need to see it. You got to see it. Just go to YouTube. Stop watching my fucking thing. Open a new Pete Weber. That's him. That's the name. Pete Weber. I knew somebody would know. Yeah, you don't even have to type in "who do you think you are?" I am. Just type in Pete Weber loses mind, and then you're in for a treat. Oh, look at this. Excellent question. What did you think of Sopranos movie that just came out? I haven't seen it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's like you guys figured out that I'm from New Jersey and you asked me a question about New Jersey. I didn't know the answer. And then you figured out that I love the Sopranos and you asked me a question about the Sopranos. I don't know the answer. I'm sorry. I haven't seen it yet. I heard it was bad. I'm going to see it anyway. I'm probably going to like it. It's going to have to be quite bad for me not to like it. What's your favorite beer? I don't drink beer. I've never liked the taste of any beer. In fact, I've always been suspicious of people who like beer. I remember being in college and losing my fucking. I drank beer in college. Don't get me wrong. I just thought it tasted like shit, and then I would have to listen to all these like 19-year-olds be like, what is this, a lager? You got a nice rich lager? I'll be like, can you shut the fuck up? Okay, we're just trying to get drunk, idiot. So yeah, I don't have a favorite beer. Okay, what else? Oh, what's this? Billy Joel. Oh yeah, I've seen that. I forgot, but I've seen it. Billy Joel freaking out USSR. It does. It needs an honorable mention. Billy Joel. It's so funny. It's like something about rich, successful men just becoming like impotent with rage. I will love that for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be like an old man on oxygen, coughing up his lungs, watching this shit. It's gonna make me happy. Okay. Yeah, no, great. These are great questions. All right, what else we got? What else we got? All right, I'm gonna go to one of the big. I'm gonna go to the big ones I got in advance. We're bringing out the big guns now because I feel sort of warmed up, so I feel like I can take on the big issues. Look at this fucking question from Mike Wayner. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, Mike. What are your thoughts on John Mayer? I have a lot to say about this. When I got this one on Instagram, I was like, ooh, I guess this is going to be the Ask Me Anything where this happens. I guess this is going to be the one. I have a lot of thoughts on John Mayer. I don't really like him, and I know a lot of people do like him. So let me start by saying that, like, it's okay if you like him. Like, the only reason I'm saying I don't like him is because we're doing this thing called Ask Me Anything, and I'm just going to tell you what I think. But like, I could be wrong, and I'm going to say some critical shit, but this guy has sold a bazillion records. So who's probably right? The asshole on YouTube who still doesn't have 5,000 subscribers, or like the guy with innumerable hits over the course of 20 years? Okay, so just if anybody's like worried because you like John Mayer, good for you, man. It's your world. We live in your world. We live in the world where John Mayer and his fans have won the day. Having said that, I don't really like him. I think he's plain. I think he, like, what he does is like to the bone conventional in a way that I just don't really like. He's good at guitar. He's skilled. Like, it's clear that he practiced. You know what I mean? I bet he's not watching to Ask Me Anything right now. He's probably practicing guitar. He can do shit. It's just, I think the stuff he does is like uninteresting to me. And specifically, like, was more when he started out, the fact that he was just trying to do this like update of the blues, I didn't really buy it. That, to me, I was like, that's the choice. I kind of feel like the blues was like probably exhausted by the time Stevie Ray Vaughan came around. Like by the 80s, I think it was done probably. I mean, I'm not saying all blues musicians are full of shit. I'm just saying as a form, it had like a lot had happened by the 80s. And then this one guy came around and we were like, okay, one more. Stevie Ray Vaughan's tone is so good. His feel is so good. He'll be the last one. Okay. Then 20 years went by and John Mayer was like, I'm going to do it. And I just sort of feel like, why? Why? Are you going to change it? Sorry, that might be cool. Are you going to like do something different? No. You're just going to do like what Stevie Ray Vaughan did, except instead of singing dinky blues songs, he's going to write some pop songs. That's the difference. Now, I like pop songs, but I don't really like John Mayer's pop songs. I feel the same way about him as a vocalist also. Like, he can sing better than I can. If neither of us was famous and you put us in a karaoke competition, John Mayer would beat me. But on an artistic level, again, I kind of don't buy it. Like, he's doing this hushed male voice thing that I'm a little bit like, why is that the choice? You know what I'm talking about? Where he's like, welcome to the real world, she said to me condescendingly. To me, it sounds like you just are trying to sound hot. That's all you're trying to do. It's like, to me, it's like the vocal equivalent of like the Zoolander face, when like Zoolander's trying to look hot and it's ridiculous. When Ben Stiller's like, and he's like, this is what models do. And it's absurd. Like, somehow, to me, that's what John Mayer's singing voice is, except that like people are going with it. So, you know, I don't know. He is a good singer, and maybe that's just what his voice sounds like, maybe. But to me, there's just a kind of like there's a sense of entitlement, really, I think, is actually what I don't like about it, is that he's just sort of like, I'm entitled to do this really plain shit that's already been done 1,000 times. I'm entitled to do it again, and I get to do it again. And why does he get to do it again? Well, because people like it when he does it. So again, you know, he's right and I'm wrong. But to me, I just sort of feel like, oh, this shit. I mean, it's, you know what it's like? It's like Taylor Swift. I kind of feel the same way. Like, she's not bad. She's very skilled. But there's like and also, weren't they an item? That makes perfect sense to me that they were a couple, Taylor Swift and John Mayer. Like, Shake It Off is good. That's a good title. The lyrics it's a good angle. Like, if anyone here is trying to write songs, if you had an idea for a song where the main point of the song is you're just going to shake it off, that's a good idea. You should run with that. It's like a good 3-minute song. What's the worst part of that song? And the melodically is good. And it does the thing that's hard to do, which is that it has the same chords the whole time, but different melodies. And just the fact that it's different melodies over the same chords makes it sound like new sections. That's very hard to do that. And that song does it. So it's like a good song almost, except what's the part of that song that's bad? What's the dumb part of that song is the rap part. The rap part is dumb. And she's rapping, right? Where she's like, the boy's over there with the hella good hair. It's like corny rapping. It's like kids bop rap. And like, that makes me sad when rapping is corny. It's like Christian heavy metal. It's like, you take this cool thing and then ruin it. We're going to do corny rapping. She could have got anybody to rap. She could have got anybody to rap on the song. Could have been cool, right? Imagine if she got fucking Death Grips. How cool would that have been? Death Grips was still around when that song came out. Taylor Swift would be obviously she didn't get Death Grips. A lot of parents would have had a lot of problems with that. I'm just saying, since it's my YouTube channel, there's a universe where Taylor Swift puts the Death Grips, or like Doom. She gets fucking Doom when he was still alive to do the rapping on her song. And I'm saying she's my favorite recording artist of all time. But what she did do instead, she was like, I'm going to do it. I'm not a rapper, but I'm going to do it. And it sounds dumb. So that's like kind of my issue with John Mayer. It's like the I'm just going to do it thing. You know, as a guitar player, I do think he's good, but he never really kills me. I think I heard a Dwayne Reed song, a John Mayer song on Dwayne Reed the other day, because I noticed there was a guitar solo in Dwayne Reed. I was like, oh, who's that? And it was like a fine guitar solo. It was like, you know, declined to be hostile in any way. It was like, we're going to take a guitar solo, but we're not going to kill anybody. And I'm always like, ugh. The point of a guitar solo is to kill people. Write that down. Okay, this is the pro tip this is the only pro tip that matters. If you're a guitar player, the point of a guitar solo is to kill people. If you're not trying to kill anybody with your guitar solo, then don't do a guitar solo. Okay, so anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I hear a guitar solo with Dwayne Reed. It's like non-lethal. And then the guy starts singing. I'm like, oh, I think that's John Mayer. And it's like not blues anymore. It's like very, very, very generic pop music, you know? So that's why I don't really like him. But many people like him. And I know why people like him. Also, people say he's bringing new people into guitar. You know, I'm sure Red Shelve likes John Mayer, right? Like, I get it. Also, he's making, you know, he's creating new guitar players. He makes people interested in music. People like his music. That's all fine. And what I said before also about he's like trying to be hot. You know, I like people who try to be hot too. Like, I love David Lee Roth. I talked about him last time. He tried to be hot a lot. And sometimes he's annoying because he's trying so hard to be hot. But he's also operating on multiple levels, and there's like lots of contradictions and lots of bizarre creative shit that you weren't ready for coming out of David Lee Roth. And I'd never hear that with John Mayer. I never hear that. But maybe he's right and I'm wrong. He got to have sex with Jen Aniston. I wanted to do that. But I don't think she's watching pedal videos. My favorite instrument is rare. You ever play a bouzouki? No. Is a bouzouki? I don't know what a bouzouki is, but maybe is it the thing that's at the is there a sled? Is bouzouki the instrument that's on Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel? Do you know what I'm talking about? In that song where there's like the that's like my favorite part of that song. Is the part of that song where it goes Does anyone know if that's a bouzouki? Because if it is, that's cool. Someone once told me, "Oh, that's a bouzouki." I was having this conversation with somebody once while we were listening to that song, and I was like, "You know what the cool part of the song is, right? This is what it's like to be with me in real life. It's like we'll be having a conversation about one thing, and then I'll just interrupt you and be like, "Sorry, you know what the cool thing about the song is, right? It's this." And then everyone's like, "It doesn't sound very cool when you do it like that." I was like, "Well, don't listen to me doing it. Listen to the song." And then at some point, someone was like, "Yeah, I know about the bouzouki on this song." And I was like, "Oh, it's a bouzouki?" So anyway, look at this. Sorry, a Greek guitar. Okay, that's not what I asked. I asked if it's on Sledgehammer. The rap on MJ's Black or White is the producer of the song Bill Bottrell, stealth move to get royalties. Yeah, it's a great example of bad, corny rapping. Of course, Michael Jackson's going to have bad, corny rapping on his albums. I love Michael Jackson, but how could he possibly? How could Michael Jackson possibly put rap on his album and have it go well? The rapping on that song is so dumb. It's so bad. And also Slash is on that song, and the part that he's on is bad too. Black or White it makes me sad because the main guitar hook is so good. Like that song, that part of that song is like classic MJ, and that it's just like exactly what you want. You hear it and you're like, thank you for giving me exactly what I want to hear. And then him singing, it sounds great. And then there's like a bad heavy metal part, and then there's a bad rapping part. So sad. All right. Look it up. No slash. What do you mean no slash? What isn't slash on? You look it up. Am I wrong? Let's look it up. Here, can I do screen share? Let's do it. Let's do it. I might be wrong. It's possible. Share screen. Wait, I gotta start a new Chrome tab if we're gonna do this. Here we'll go to. Is Wikipedia cool, or do we need? Is that fake news? It's up to you. Let's start with Wikipedia, and if anyone has a problem with Wikipedia, then we'll try something else. Okay. Going to Wikipedia, can you see? Yeah, you guys can see that, right? Black or White, 1991 single by Michael Jackson, Slash. The song's main riff, played by Bill Bottrell, is often incorrectly attributed to Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash. Slash's guitar playing is actually heard on the skit that precedes the album version of the song, and he did play the main riff during live performances of the song. All right, cool. I feel like we're both right. I was thinking of the music video when I said that. I know he's not playing the cool riff that I said I liked. I know that's not Slash. But yeah, okay, so he's playing the skit that precedes the album version. Isn't that also in the video? Is he in the video? Maybe he's not. Maybe it's just Macaulay Culkin in the video. Okay, well anyway, cool. I'm glad we're able to clarify that. Thank you for keeping me honest. Okay, cool. All right, got it. Let's look at some more questions. When composing, do you go? Here we go. Oh, here's another Spaghetto question. I didn't realize this is from the same guy. This guy was asking some good questions on Instagram. When composing, do you go for a pedal based on an idea, or does the pedal inspire the idea? If I'm making a video, the pedal sort of inspires the idea. If I'm doing a how to be advanced and I have to come up with 5 little things to show off about the pedal, I sort of lead with the pedal. I try to find a cool sound, and then I try to think, okay, what little bullshit song can I make out of this? I do sort of have a running list of songs I would like to cover if I can find a sound that's cool for them. Like I have a video that's about to come out that's unreleased but finished, where one of the 5 songs is the theme from Terminator. And for a long time, I've known like we're going to put the Terminator theme in one of these fucking videos. But I couldn't get a sound that I thought was cool for it, and then I finally found one. So sometimes I have this like list of songs I want to cover at some point. You know, I want to do at some point. I gotta do "Toxic" by Britney Spears. I'm like waiting till I get a sound that will be cool for that. But for the most part, I'm like listening to what the pedal's doing, and then I just try to think of something I could do with that sound. So the pedal is leading. In my own music, it's a little more complicated. There will be times when I'll like hear something in my head and then I'll try to find a way to create that sound with pedals. And it's rare that I can really ever get the thing I heard. That's rare. I wish it happened more. I'll hear a sound and I'll be like, that would be so cool. And then I'll use a million different pedals to try to get it, and I won't be able to get it. Sometimes I'll get something else that is cool, and that's okay. That's good enough. I'll be searching for the thing I wanted. I won't be able to get it, and then I'll get something else, and then we'll go with that. That's okay. But the more sort of clearly formed, the more clearly developed some sound in my head is, like the harder it is sometimes to actually be able to do it. Unless I'm just thinking of a sound I've already got. But sometimes I'll just hear like an event in my mind. I'll hear like a musical event, and I want to get that, and it's like really hard to beam it and get the right pedals to make it work. Have you Googled yourself recently? Apparently you want it for a hidden run. No, I don't Google myself, believe it or not. That's sort of cool that you Google me. I don't Google myself. I obsessively check my YouTube analytics. I do that, which might be a sort of similar impulse, but no, I don't. I didn't know that I wanted for a hit and run. I don't even know what you're talking about. There's a bunch of people named Ivan Anderson. What is the most fulfilling part of music creation? I don't know. I guess it's when you're done and then you can listen to the song and be happy with how it came out. I like that. I listen to my own stuff. It's probably tacky to admit that. It probably makes me seem like I'm self-absorbed or something. But I listen to my own stuff, and if I like how it came out, I mean, the whole reason I make a lot of this stuff is because I want to be able to hear the song, because I like hearing songs. And there's a song I want to hear that I can't hear because it hasn't been written. So I got to write it. And then by the time I'm finally done, I want to hear it. So I put it on and listen to it. So I guess that's the most fulfilling part. Although I have to be honest, this is the beginning of me becoming like a different, terrible person. It's kind of amazing when strangers on the internet, ask you about your pedal board. Because like, who could possibly give a shit? If my favorite guitar player in the world talks about his pedal board, I'm like medium interested. I'm like, if it's not behind a paywall, I'll read it. So that's sort of like newly fascinating and incredible to me that people are asking me the paddleboard questions. I feel like I'm going to get high on that, and then I'm going to turn into John Mayer. That's what's going to happen, except I'll be less rich and famous. Do you make advanced food by chance? No, I don't really. I have like New Jersey taste. I like fake shit. You know, I like orange juice without the pulp. I think that's really good. I like, when they make Oreos that have like fake flavors, I think those are good across the board. Like the candy corn Oreos or like the birthday cake Oreo. I've never had like a fake bullshit Oreo that I didn't think was a home run. All right, cool. All right, more questions. We got to keep going. Got to keep powering through. Oh, cool. This is a cool one. Have you ever been demonetized by YouTube for doing your covers? They're pretty disguised and different. I'm just curious about what you can get away with. You know, I worry about this. I've never been caught. I've never been caught. My covers are definitely different. And sometimes I change the key also, although I don't change the key because I'm trying to be smarter than YouTube. I change the key sometimes because I need for like range reasons. Like the only synthesizer I have is this thing, and it's like on 1.5 octaves. And sometimes depending on the key, you know, if I'm like playing a riff down here in F, I've got almost a second octave above F. But if I'm like playing a song in B, I got to start here and I can't really get lower than that. So sometimes I'll move keys for that reason. But I've never been demonetized. I've got like 150,000 views and I've never been demonetized. I worry about whether it's going to happen. I worry about whether it's going to happen, but it's true. My covers are pretty different. So maybe everything will be okay. Smooth peanut butter guy. Exactly right. Exactly right. Skippy smooth peanut butter is so good. I eat that out of the jar with a spoon. That's like my snack. I'll go running and then I'll get hungry and I'll just eat peanut butter with a spoon. I hate it when you get a thing of peanut butter and it's like some natural peanut butter where it's like an inch of oil on the top and then below that is like peanut butter cement. Nobody actually enjoys that. There's not a man alive who is in the mood for peanut butter and wants to open up a fucking jar and then stir the oil water back into the peanut butter cement and then do anything with that. It's a waste of time. So yeah, Skippy peanut butter is good. So anyway, sorry, I had another question I was going to bring in. Here we go. Oh wait, sorry, I got the yeah, so even chunky is better than the natural kind that is like thick cement bullshit. I mean, I don't like chunky. I want it to be fakely smooth, but even I would rather do chunky than the organic shit that is just a disgrace. All right, look at this from Colin Brown. I think I've heard you mention currently taking guitar lessons. What are you practicing on guitar right now? What do you feel you struggle with the most? So I'm not currently taking guitar lessons. I've taken guitar lessons sort of recently. I mean, when I was a teenager, I like took guitar lessons every Saturday afternoon. And I was obsessed with that. We already talked about that. Then in my 20s, I was like in bands and playing shows and, learning on the job. I would go back sometimes and take a guitar lesson here or there for my old guy. But, I was mostly like, I had graduated. Like when I was 18, at one point, my guitar teacher was like, okay, it's time. It's time for you to leave the womb. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, I'm not ready. Okay. Then years later, I went back and took more guitar lessons from a guy named Sean Driscoll in Brooklyn, who I found through YouTube. How cool is that? This guy, Sean Driscoll, has some great YouTube videos about how to play outside and like how to use a metronome to do insane syncopation exercises. And I was watching his YouTube videos being like, oh, this guy's advanced. And I contacted him and took some lessons from him. They were great. Those were about sort of learning a little bit more how to play like jazz authentically. Like I'd learned a bunch of theory and stuff from my first guy, but my first guy was like a rock player. He was good. And if you gave him like a jazz progression, he could do it, but he would sound like a rock guy who is making sort of rock choices over jazz progression. Sometimes that sounds bad. I don't think my guitar teacher sounded bad when he did that, but nobody would have thought that he was a jazz guitar player. So I was curious, like, why is that? Why is that? How come it's not enough to know how to harmonize any chord? How come it's not enough to like follow the changes? How come you can follow the changes and still not sound like a native jazz musician? That's sort of what I wanted to learn from Sean Driscoll. Those were cool guitar lessons. I don't think I sound like a native jazz guitar player, but he gave me some new stuff to work on and I understand it a little bit better. Really quickly, I think there's two reasons. One is like swing feel, if you don't have a sort of like, if your swing time is not developed, you might not sound very jazzy. And then the other thing too is like, it's not always about just harmonizing the chord you're on. So sometimes you sort of like change the chord you're on with your soloing to anticipate the next chord. Or sometimes you just start playing over the next chord before the next chord comes. It's stuff like that. It's like the rock approach is to sort of like play over whatever you're on top of at the moment. Maybe that's unfair. If you haven't really grown up listening to jazz, that might be how you approach it. But like the sort of truly advanced jazz thing is to be sort of looking out at what's coming harmonically before it comes. Okay, what's this? People are talking about this comment. My boyfriend and I thought we had the house to ourselves until the morning, so I was giving him a handy, and he was fingering me when his parents came home early and walked in on us. We was mortified. Oh, no question here. No question here. your parents walked in on you and your boyfriend doing, um, giving each other, fingering each other. Well, that's cool. You know, that does sound mortifying. I also think it's funny that you guys weren't even having sex. You were just fingering each other. I don't know why I think that's funny. It's funnier to me than if it's just your parents walked in on you having sex. I don't know why. Why is it different? Why is it funnier that it's like my boyfriend's parents walked in on us fingering each other? I think it's because just something about we were fingering each other is funny. That's what it is. The parents have nothing to do with each other. It's just funny to say we were fingering each other. Yeah, that's what it is. I don't know why. It's funny to talk about getting fingered. Great. Well, thank you for sharing that with the live stream. That was that put a smile on my face. We got some more questions here from my backlog. Oh, here's a good one. This was unused from the previous live stream. I got this question. I noticed later when I was going through my last live stream to put in the timestamps. I had to like rewatch it again, and I noticed there were some cool questions I missed. This was one such question. I'm sorry I didn't see this. This is from Gregory Buttocks. How do you find your own style? Like when you're learning production, how do you know which sound to reference? Well, that's that's a nice technical question, typical of Gregory Buttocks to be coming in with all business. This depends on whether or not you're working on your own music. Because if we're talking about production and you're producing a track for someone else, it's like their sound reference is the thing. And I'm a great guy to talk to about that, because even though I do some of this, I don't have a great track record in like producing or mixing for clients. I've done it sometimes and people like it, and I've done it other times where people are like, that's not what I wanted. And then the shitty thing about doing work like that is that then they're right. You give them the mix that you spend a lot of time on and you think it's great, and they're like, that's not what I wanted. And then it gets worse than that. They'll be like, well, what they'll give you the sound references. They're like, I wanted it to sound like, I don't know, what did they want it to sound like? I wanted it to sound like a Stevie Wonder record. And then you'll say, well, I understand. Yeah, that's why I used like, a Tonto synthesizer, and like that's why I had all those like multi-tracked funky clavichords in there, and you give them reasons why it is a Stevie Wonder production style, and they'll be like, oh yes, I understand now that you say it, but I still don't want it to sound like that. And then you're like, well, what do you want it to sound like? And they're like, Stevie Wonder. So if you're working for someone else, my advice to you is like, God bless. I don't know how I hope you do good. Sometimes when I do it, the client's happy, but I have a much better track record when people send me a track and they want me to like just play guitar on it, or like put weird shit over it, or play a solo over it. And the track is theirs, and I just come in and do this crazy thing and try to kill somebody. And then they're like, great, I love that you did that. That usually goes well. But if they give me the whole track, I start to make cyber attack decisions, and I'm like, oh, this is so good. And they get it back and they're like, okay. But if you're just doing your own stuff, how do you know which sound to reference? How do you find your own style? Just try to do the thing you want to hear. Just like try to close your eyes and listen to the song in your head, and just try to make it sound like the way you want to hear it. Just try to just pursue that at all costs. Just like there's this like very faint thing in your mind that's like how you want it to go, and just chase that. If you just show up to your mixing desk in the morning, you're like, well, which of all the cool records that have been made, which ones do I want to use as my sound references? Like, good luck with that, man. There's like 100 million cool songs that have been made. How are you going to fucking choose? So, I guess that's my answer. Is that helpful? I would also say that it's like, I mean, if you really want to work as a mix engineer, or you really want to work as a producer, then I guess you have to be good at being able to call up different production styles and being able to imitate other production styles. I'm not very good at that. I just sort of do my own thing. It sounds sort of, glitchy and weird. And since it's for me, then it works. And I guess as a guitar player, I did learn to play straight, so I can sort of do it as a guitar player. If you're like, no, I want you to sound more like John Mayer. If the client said that, I'd be like, okay. I wouldn't tell them all my fucking issues about it. I would just say, okay, and then do it. I mean, does that mean I'm equal to John Mayer? I'm not saying that I am, but if somebody said as a guitar player, we want you to do that, I would not shit my pants at that point. I'd be like, I think I can do that for you. At what point would you feel comfortable, accomplished, enjoy to hand over songwriting duties to AI that has analyzed all your music and continues to create music in your style? I'd be curious to try that. I don't want to have to spend money on that. I don't want to buy that. But if there's like some browser extension that'll do it, I would try it tonight. If they're really good at it, it save me a lot of trouble. I've tried doing that in the past with my lyrics. They have those, what are they called? Markov prediction algorithms, Markov something. There's like low-tech ways there's like programs that aren't that sophisticated where you just give them like 100,000 words of text, and then based on how many times a given word is followed by a different given word, they'll try to create new text in the style of that's just sort of randomly, well, not randomly, but is sort of barely intelligently choosing to put words in order based on previous word order. I've tried doing that where I've already done this. I like copy and paste every lyric I've ever written on my computer, and I give that to the computer program, and then I see what it does. And it didn't do much. I might still have the text file. It produced a lot of text, and I didn't think any of it was that good, but there were a couple lines, like maybe one or two lines that I saved. Oh yeah, I do have it. Oh yeah. Okay. Here's some of the stuff that computer program tried to write lyrics in my style that I thought were keepers. Our names were my true feelings. That's like a dumb cyber attack lyric. Our names were my true feelings. I'm not going to put that in the song because it's too corny, but I do think it's funny that that's a computer doing an impression of me. I can see how it got there. And then here was another thing that computer produced. Hey, this hunch, it's all too much good. It's like kind of the ballpark. I am trying to write flirty lyrics like that. Hey, this hunch, it's all too much good. But I had to read through like 10 pages of gibberish to get that much. So, it wasn't that good. Oh, and here's a couple more. Here's a kind of a decent one I got. Nothing hurts like it was you. That's a computer doing an impression of me. Nothing hurts like it was you. It's not my favorite lyric, but it's like in the game. Maybe someday I'll have a song that's missing one line and that'll fit. How funny is it that you asked if I would ever consider doing this, and that what we got to within 5 minutes was me posting the results of the time I already did it. Personally, where do you feel you're at as a performing musician? Do you draw a crowd? Could you tour? I was drawing decent crowds before Plague World, and then I stopped. So I'm assuming I'm at where I was. I mean, where I was like, I could headline a room like Rockwood Music Hall in New York. So not the most famous guy on the block at all, but enough to play and have people come, and enough to feel like it wasn't, I would make a little money on the show because I have to pay my guys. So I would make a decent amount of money and then have to pay my guys, and I could like not lose money on a live show. So but now, so then I stopped doing that because of Plague World, and now I have this YouTube following that I didn't have before, but you guys are all over the world, right? It would be cool if you're all in New York City and I could just start, I could like headline Baby's All Right or something, and you guys would all come to it. But I'm assuming you guys are spread out. So I don't know. I'm sort of eager to keep doing the YouTube following thing and see if I can reach a level where like some sort of Mickey Mouse tour might actually be viable. That's a good question. When you write lyrics, do you write them to fit the music, or do you take notes and try to match stuff up later? It's both. I'm like always sort of trying to write lyrics that I think could be cool, but there's like no such thing as a lyric by itself, really. I'll write ones down that's just a lyric in thin air, but all I'm really doing with that is saying like maybe someday I'll have a melody that I can sort of tweak this to fit into, and then it'll really be what it is. When I'm writing a song, I always try to come up with the melodies first. The melody is king. If you have an A+ melody and like a B lyric, the lyric becomes like an A. Like the A+ness of the melody like lifts up the lyric. I mean, the lyric has to be like not terrible, but lyrics that aren't that special when sung correctly become good. Like "Do You Love Me" by Kiss. I really like that song. And "Do You Love Me" as a line could go either way. There's nothing really special about it. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's terrible. Like that's an idea that we all think it might be a good song. And the way Paul Stanley sings it, like I buy it. It would be, it would have been very easy for Kiss to write a song called "Do You Love Me" that I don't like, but this is one where they got it right. And I don't love every Kiss song, but I'm thinking of it specifically because something about the coupling of those words to the melody they put it to, and the way he says "Do you love me?" I'm just like, oh man, Paul Stanley. He's like really asking. Okay. So I like that song. So when I'm writing a song, like I sing the melody as a nonverbal thing. And then I just try to find lyrics that will fit the melody. And if I have to change the melody a little bit, that's fine. Who cares? But you know, I read that this is like sort of how the Beatles did it. I think like for Paul McCartney had "Yesterday" for a while, but it was only chords and melodies, and he didn't have the lyrics. So he would sing it and say nonsense words. He would be like, "Scrambled eggs. All I really want is scrambled eggs." And like scrambled eggs isn't good enough. He knew that they couldn't put the song out if he's just talking about scrambled eggs. But the melody was good. And then all he needed was something that's a little bit better than scrambled eggs. And then they got it. So that's how I do that. Okay, cool. What else do we have? There's a bunch of comments here that are just not questions. What does this mean? Turn off the fucking lights. Oh, that's the Billy Joel thing, right? That's when he's losing his shit on stage. He starts saying, "Turn off the fucking lights." That's so funny. It's so funny that this guy who's like sold more records than anyone who's ever lived in the history of the human race, like the single most successful recording artist of all time, so sells out Madison Square Garden multiple nights in a row. There's nothing more satisfying to me than seeing that guy lose his shit over "Turn off the fucking lights." That's so good. David Byrne says in his book he does a similar thing, sing gibberish over the song. Yeah, I you know, it's funny to hear that David Byrne does that because he doesn't really escape the gibberish. You know what I'm saying? He goes from like gibberish to like one step away from gibberish. You know, it probably doesn't take him that long. But yeah, also I heard that like look at this guy making fun of me. Ever played any Meris pedals, Giza? I know I'm coughing a lot, right? I know I'm coughing like an old man coughs. I'm an old. I don't know why I'm coughing. Maybe it's like my body. Maybe my posture's wrong. Maybe I'm like sort of sitting weird because the stand on my computer's low. So if I like sit good, I'm like almost out of the frame. And this, you see this little narrow space here, that makes me very uncomfortable. Can't have it be that close. So I gotta sit like this. So maybe that's why I'm coughing. Or I don't know. Maybe I have COVID. Who knows? Who knows? I did get vaccinated though. So if I do have COVID, I'm assuming I'll live. But to answer your question, yeah, I have played Meris pedals. Those things are great. Those things are great. The Meris pitch shifter is awesome. The Meris pitch shifter is like the one pitch shifter that I would maybe leave the Boss Harmonist for. I love the Boss Harmonist, and I'll probably never leave it. But the Meris pitch shifter is like the one that like maybe I would cheat on my wife for that. Maybe. Have you ever used any Red Panda pedals? My next video is a Red Panda pedal. I have a video about the Bitmap 2 coming out soon. Oh, Mark McGrath had a great freak out. I know about this one. I love that we're just talking about freak out videos on YouTube. I'm so happy that that's what my Ask Me Anything got to. Could not be happier that this is what we're talking about. Yeah. This was like on the street. Somebody just saw Mark McGrath and was like, "Sugar gay," and then Mark McGrath fought them. I love that. I love that. Now, let me just be clear here. I don't think homophobia is funny, and I don't really give a shit about who is gay or not gay. If everybody, maybe whatever. I'm not trying to endorse the homophobic thing where you like say something is gay to make fun of it, but I feel like Mark McGrath probably correctly sensed that this person was making fun of him. Like, I'm choosing to believe that Mark McGrath was upset not because he's like, "Don't call me gay." Like, I'm choosing to believe that was not the thought process. I'm choosing to believe that Mark McGrath was like, "There's nothing wrong with being gay." Number one. Number two, I sense that you are still making fun of me anyway, and for that you'll pay. And there's a version of it that kind of is like, okay, all right, Mark McGrath, you do what you got to do. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if I saw that video again, I would not be on Mark McGrath's side. And I'm not saying I am on Mark McGrath's side, but there's a part of me that's just like, I don't know. Anytime somebody makes fun of somebody else and then the person who just got made fun of is like, "You're going to pay," I'm kind of on the side of the person who like says you're going to pay. Maybe it's different if that guy's already a millionaire and he shouldn't give a shit. I don't know. But as you can see, I've thought about this. Do you like any shoegazer dream pop? I think so. I don't. Who is that? Who are the bands that do that? I don't. I feel like I do, but I don't really. I don't really think in terms of genre that much. To me, there's like three genres. There's like pop music, which is most of rock and roll. Most of rock and roll is pop music, except for like Metallica, I think, before Black Album. Like Master of Puppets is not pop music. But so pop music is like most of every band I've ever quoted in any video ever is like, that's pop music. Then there's like classical, which is some shit I don't know anything about and don't really care about. And then there's like jazz that's not pop. Some jazz is pop music, but some is not, like Ornette Coleman or whatever. So shoegazer dream pop to me, I don't really, that's like many degrees of precision more than what I can handle. Do you have a preferred amp you play through to get your specific sound? For the pedal videos, I use the Strymon Iridium. I'm just using this for like every pedal video because it's so much easier. If you use a real amp, you got to set microphones on it. My first pedal video ever, I put a microphone on an amp and it sounds terrible. My first pedal video is the Strymon Timeline. I shot that in like one day. I had no idea what I was doing and I put a mic on an amp and listened to it. Like, it sounds terrible. Then I started using this, no microphones, and it sounds good. Now I'm just the guy making videos in his house. I'm not saying microphones sound bad, but setting microphones in front of an amp is an art, and I'm not that good at it. Why would I be good at it? So I just use the Strymon Iridium. My own personal favorite amp is the JCM 800, which is a terrible choice for pedals, but I put an effects loop in my JCM 800, and I also think JCM 800s sound cool clean. Nobody ever talks about this, but if you like turn the preamp really low on a JCM 800 and you keep your guitar volume really low, I think it's kind of a cool clean sound. So on the Cyber Attack record, a lot of the real amps, we set microphones for the Cyber Attack record. That was like a real studio and everything. A lot of the amps, not all the amps, but a lot of them are vintage JCM 800s, 50 watt JCM 800s, the vintage ones. Oh yeah, okay. My Bloody Valentine. That's shoegaze dream pop. Yeah, I don't know them super well. I guess I heard of them. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry that you guys ask me questions and I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, then look at this. Any advice for getting your own tracks done? Nothing has made it out of the 30-second demo that sounded good at the time. Graveyard for me. Yeah, I talk about this a lot in my previous video. There's a lot of talk about like inspiration and how to get stuff done. But you know, I would say the advice is that you just accept that it's difficult. It's difficult to write a song. And so if it feels like hard work, you know, that's okay. It's hard work. It should feel like it's hard work. It's easier than like, you know, filming a feature length movie. That's the good news. You know, writing one song is like easier than it is to complete like, you know, the filming of Terminator 2. But it's still hard. It's still hard. So and then I would also say like um you know, one piece of advice is like figure out how you can like play up your advantages and minimize your disadvantages. Every professional in the world is doing this. Like if there's guitar players who you think always sound good, it's not that they always sound good, it's that they just don't let you hear them sound bad. Like if they know like there's this thing over here that I can't really do very well, every professional is just like, well, no one's, you're not going to look at that. You're going to look at this. I'm good at this, so you're going to see this, and no one's going to give a shit that over here I can't do that. So figure out how you could do that. For instance, one way to do it, if you, let's say you don't have very good recording equipment, and so everything you sounds like it's some shitty home recording. Well, guess what? If you can write a fucking awesome song, then you can just make a cell phone recording of it, and it might be cool. I mean, it's going to sound like a cell phone recording, but a cell phone recording of a good song is going to sound better than a cell phone recording of a bad song. You know, Prince's early records sound a little weird. When he was like a young dude and he recorded them himself, he produced them himself. They sound good, but they sound weird. You know, the Prince guitar sound on the early records is like very weird. It's like a direct in guitar sound that's like, I think, going straight into the board. And it's like, you know, as soon as he could afford to get better guitar sounds, he did. Like those records have like the sort of acne on them, but they're still cool because he's so creative. And there's something about that work that was so much him just being him and him doing everything that it kind of works, that it sounds like this kid doing everything himself. So, you know, if your material is really good, you can take a hit on the production values. You know, try to think of that kind of stuff. Or like, you know, it's going to be hard to get your drums to sound good. You know, recording drums is hard. So what are you going to do? Maybe there is no drums. That's one way to get around that problem. Maybe you buy a sound library of good, expensive drum samples. That's another way to do it. Maybe you take your own drum samples. But like, you know, you have to sort of think to yourself, what are you up against? What are the disadvantages? And then how could you write a song that would just skate right around those disadvantages? I would say think about it that way if you get stuck. Yeah, this is kind of like what I'm saying. The hardest part is finishing the arrangement. Once that's done, the fun part comes where you make it sound good and play the parts better. Yeah, I mean, I never really know what people think arrangement means, but I would say if your song is finished at the level where you could strum it and sing it, and the song would sort of go through its sections and you could sort of perform it from beginning to end by just strumming it and singing it, then I would say the arrangement is done. You still have some choices you got to make about the instrumentation, how it goes, and how to record it and how to produce it. But like if you can literally perform the song from beginning to end without having to stop, then I would say the arrangement is done. Although that might be sort of a weird sense of what arrangement means. But yeah, I would say if the song is really, really cool, you could make a shitty recording of it, and at least some people would say that song's kind of cool. Did you record the Cyber Attack album live? No. I mean, if what you mean is like, did we just all the band played together and then we recorded and kept everybody's parts? No. There is some of the songs are live drums and live bass. Some of the songs you could probably tell which ones have a live drummer. For the ones that have a live drummer, it's like the drummer and the bass player were in the same room playing together, and then we just overdubbed a lot of stuff. But no, I didn't do it live. I don't think it sounds live either, and I mean that's okay with me. I feel like, you know, if you want it to sound live, come to the show, man. I do it all live, no tracks live. But sometimes the scratch track is the best take. That's true. Sometimes when you're just bullshitting to put the track down, you end up doing something really good. It's rare that I do though. My scratch tracks are rarely good. take that how you will. My scratch tracks are really good. All right. Do we have any other questions here? I feel like I want to do like one or two more. Let me see the backlog. Is there anything else from the backlog I want to hit? No, maybe we did it all. Oh yeah, here's a cute one. This will be the last one. Here's another one that I missed last time. Somebody asked this question last time and I missed it. But if I'd seen it, I would have answered it. Did Vulfpeck ever comment on your collaboration? Awesome question. So just in case you don't know what this is about, there's a video on my channel that has like no views. It's called My Collab with Vulfpeck, and it's me overdubbing myself on like the drummer and the bassist of Vulfpeck doing some little jam. They never commented on that. But here's the backstory. Like years ago, way before I had to, my channel was like sort of happening because of the pedal shit, even before the Cyber Attack album came out. Years ago, my YouTube channel, this YouTube channel was just me like uploading, you know, footage from my live shows. I didn't even have like a music video yet. It was just like I'd started a new project that I was calling Cyber Attack. I had some big dreams and I was like putting little Mickey Mouse shit on my YouTube channel. In that era, Vulfpeck the band released some compressor. They like released a plugin, like a compressor you could do your tracks with. And as part of the promotion of that, they like also released some little jam of the drummer or the main guy. Who's the main guy? Jack Stratton is the main guy, right? Him playing drums and Joe Dart playing bass. And they shot a little video of them jamming on like one chord. It was like this one chord jam. And then they said, overdubs welcome. And I was like on Facebook the moment they released that. I remember seeing it. And I was like, fuck, I should be the first guy. I should be the first guy to hit the internet with overdubs. So that day I like grabbed the track and then overdubbed myself using a random tone generator and playing some like crazy ring mod guitar solo. I was like, I'm not going to try to do Corey Wong. They got Corey Wong. I'm going to go in another direction with this. So I did like anti Corey Wong, which at the time I decided would mean a random tone generator, literally creating random tones and some really hostile ring modulation guitar shit. And then like by the end of the day, I'd uploaded a video to all my social medias, tagging Vulfpeck with my overdubs on it. And I was like, this is one of the few times in my life when I felt like I was fast. I was like moving at the pace of like social media fast. Like I'm not, you know, I don't upload a lot of stuff. I don't do a lot of status updates. I'm just like, I don't move at that speed. This is like one of the few times where I was like, we got to be fast. And I sort of thought like this could be big for me. Like if I really am one of the first few people to tag Vulfpeck with my overdubs, like maybe Vulfpeck will reshare this stuff and people will find me. And then they never did. I don't know why they never did. Maybe they just saw it and they were like, that's dumb. Maybe they didn't like my ring mod. I kind of feel like if they'd seen it, they would have liked it. I feel like what I did was to me, like, especially Jack Stratton himself, if you look at his personal YouTube channel, he has a lot of weird, crazy shit on there. Like that guy can definitely go out. So I sort of figured if they hear this, they'll respect that I went out. So maybe I just like didn't tag them right. Maybe that's what went wrong. Maybe when I like tagged them, I like misspelled their name. Maybe I screwed up. But anyway, they never commented on it. So then I just left it on my channel as like, and I called it my collaboration with Vulfpeck, like as if we had been close personal friends or something. So that video has no views. I mean, when I say no views, I mean, I think it has like, 400 views or something. So if you're watching this now, why don't you go watch that video and share it with your friends, and maybe someday it'll get enough views that Vulfpeck will have no choice but to comment on it. In the meantime, everybody, thanks for watching this. Thanks for being a part of this. I love doing these, super fun. I love seeing your comments. Thanks for all the questions. I want to do this like every month. In the meantime, have fun, try to be creative. And if you ever play guitar solo, make sure that you're trying to kill somebody with it.